I am going to say something today that is going to make some of you angry, and I want you to know that I am okay with that, because the truth has never been popular. The truth has always made people uncomfortable. The truth has always been the guest at the table that nobody invited but everybody needed to hear. And the truth today is this: there are people in your life right now, people you love, people you have been loyal to for decades, who do not deserve that loyalty. They have not earned it. They have not returned it. They have taken it from you the way you take water from a well, bucket after bucket, without ever once stopping to ask whether the well is running dry. And the well is running dry. You can feel it. You have felt it for years. That tired feeling that comes after every interaction with certain people. That drained feeling. That hollow feeling where something used to be full. That is not aging. That is not depression. That is depletion. You are being depleted by people who take from you and give nothing back. And your loyalty to them is the bucket they use to keep drawing water from a well that is almost empty. I want to talk about 5 types of people. 5. Not to be cruel, not to create conflict in your family, but to open your eyes to something that you already know in your gut, but have been too loyal, too kind, too afraid of being called selfish to admit. These 5 types of people are in almost every older person's life, and they are quietly, steadily, consistently stealing the peace that you have earned through decades of sacrifice. The first person who does not deserve your loyalty is the one who only comes when they need something. You know exactly who I am talking about. The phone doesn't ring for weeks, maybe months. The door doesn't open. The car doesn't pull into the driveway. And then one day, out of nowhere, there they are, smiling, hugging you, telling you how good you look, asking how you've been. And for a moment, for one brief, beautiful moment, you feel seen. You feel remembered. You feel like you matter. And then the ask comes. It always comes. Can you watch the kids this weekend? Can I borrow some money until Friday? Can you co-sign this loan? Can I store some things in your garage? Can you help me with this problem that I created for myself and now need you to clean up? And you say yes. Because you always say yes. Because saying no feels like losing them. And you would rather be used than be alone. That is what they are counting on. They are counting on your fear of loneliness being bigger than your self-respect. And it has worked for years, maybe decades. But I am telling you today, the person who only appears when they need your hands, your money, your time, your signature, your labor, that person is not visiting you. They are harvesting you. And you deserve better than being someone's harvest. I knew a man named Eugene who had a nephew that he loved like a son. This nephew would come around every few months, always charming, always with a story, always with a hug and a compliment about how Eugene was the only real one in the family. And Eugene would swell with pride. He would cook for the nephew. He would sit with him for hours. He would open his wallet without being asked, because the nephew had a way of mentioning problems without directly asking for help. Just mentioning, just dropping hints that landed like seeds in Eugene's generous heart. And Eugene would water those seeds with money he couldn't afford to give. Over 15 years, Eugene gave that nephew close to $30,000. $30,000. A man living on a fixed income, a man who skipped his own medications some months to save money. That man gave $30,000 to a nephew who drove a nicer truck than Eugene ever owned. And when Eugene had a health scare at 78 and needed someone to drive him to his appointments, the nephew was busy. Every time. Too busy. Can't make it, Uncle. Maybe next week. And Eugene sat in his kitchen and called a taxi to take him to chemotherapy, because the person he had given $30,000 to couldn't give him 30 minutes. That is who I am talking about. That is the person who does not deserve your loyalty. The second person who does not deserve your loyalty is the one who makes you feel small. This might be a sibling, a child, an in-law, a so-called friend, someone who has a way of making you feel less than, not with fists, with words, with tone, with the way they dismiss your opinions, the way they talk over you, the way they roll their eyes when you tell a story you've told before, the way they treat you like you are slow or outdated or in the way. The subtle cruelty of being made to feel irrelevant by someone who is supposed to love you. And you tolerate it. You tolerate it because you have been tolerating it for so long that it feels normal, like weather. Like something you can't change, so you just endure it. But it is not weather. It is a choice. Their choice to treat you that way, and your choice to keep showing up for it. I knew a woman named Pearl who had a daughter-in-law that made her feel invisible every time they were in the same room. Not with yelling, not with obvious cruelty, with silence, with exclusion, with the way she would change the subject every time Pearl started to speak, with the way she would plan family gatherings and tell Pearl the wrong time so she would arrive after everyone had already eaten, with the way she referred to Pearl's home-cooked meals as old-fashioned, which sounded like a compliment but felt like a burial. And Pearl took it, year after year. She took it because her son was married to this woman, and Pearl was terrified that if she said anything, she would lose access to her grandchildren. So she swallowed every insult. She smiled through every exclusion. She pretended not to notice every time she was made to feel like a guest in her own son's life instead of his mother. And that swallowing, that years-long act of eating your own pain to keep the peace, it ate Pearl from the inside out. She developed stomach problems that no doctor could explain. She developed anxiety that kept her up at night before every family gathering. She developed a sadness so deep and so constant that she forgot what it felt like to not be sad. And all of it, every symptom, every sleepless night, every knot in her stomach, was caused by one person who never once raised her voice. You do not have to be yelled at to be abused. Silence can be a weapon. Exclusion can be a weapon. And the person wielding those weapons does not deserve your loyalty just because they married someone you love. Before I share the next teaching, one quick thing. Everything I have been pulling out of these old ways, the teachings about protecting your peace, about setting boundaries in your final years, about understanding who deserves your energy and who doesn't, I have written it all down. 20 teachings, 4 parts, in the order they were meant to be received. It is called the Native Way. You can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. But stay right here, because the next 3 people I am about to describe are the ones that people tell me they never expected to see on this list. My grandmother had a saying about people who make you feel small. She said, if a person shrinks you every time you are around them, they are not your people. Your people make you taller. Not physically, spiritually. Your people make you feel like the full version of yourself, the version that has something to offer, the version that is worth listening to, the version that takes up space in the world and has every right to. If you leave someone's presence feeling smaller than when you arrived, that person is not nourishing you. They are eroding you. And at your age, you don't have the time or the energy to be eroded by anyone. You have been weathered enough by life itself. You don't need help from people who are supposed to love you. She also told me something else that took me years to understand. She said, you cannot make someone respect you by respecting them harder. And that is what most older people try to do. They think that if they just give more, love more, sacrifice more, tolerate more, eventually the other person will see their worth and change. But it doesn't work that way. Respect is not something you can earn from someone who has already decided not to give it. You can earn it from strangers. You can earn it from new people who are still forming their opinion of you. But from someone who has known you for 20 years and still makes you feel small, no amount of additional kindness will change their mind. They have made their decision, and your job is not to change their decision. Your job is to change your proximity. Move further away from people who shrink you. Move closer to people who see you. It is that simple. And that difficult. Because the people who shrink you are often the people you love the most. And loving someone who makes you feel small is one of the loneliest experiences a human being can have. The third person who does not deserve your loyalty is the one who never asks how you are doing. And I mean really asks. Not the polite "how are you" that people say while they're already reaching for their phone. I mean the kind of asking that stops, that looks you in the eye, that waits for the real answer instead of the rehearsed one. The person who never asks is the person who has decided that your interior life is not interesting enough to explore. They are comfortable with the surface version of you, the smiling version, the "I'm fine" version, the version that doesn't require anything from them. And they will keep you at that surface forever, because going deeper would mean they might have to give something: time, attention, emotional energy. And they don't want to give those things to you. They want to give those things to the people and the activities and the distractions that they have decided matter more. You are on their list, but you are at the bottom. And being at the bottom of someone's list when they are at the top of yours is one of the most painful imbalances a person can live with. I knew a man named Walter who had a best friend for 40 years. 40 years. They went through everything together: marriages, divorces, job losses, health scares. They were brothers in every way except blood. And when Walter retired and his health started to decline, something shifted. The friend stopped calling as often, stopped visiting. When Walter called him, the conversations got shorter, 5 minutes, then 3, then just a voicemail that was never returned. And Walter made excuses for him. He's busy. He's got his own things going on. He probably doesn't know how bad it is. But the truth was simpler and crueler than any of those excuses. The friend didn't want to be around decline. He didn't want to sit with someone whose world was getting smaller because it reminded him that his world was getting smaller too. Walter's sickness was a mirror that the friend didn't want to look into. And so he walked away, after 40 years, without a fight, without an explanation, without even the basic decency of saying, "I can't do this." He just faded, like a radio station slowly going out of range. And Walter was left holding 40 years of loyalty that had been returned to him like a package marked undeliverable. I want you to think about something. When was the last time that person, the one you are thinking of right now, when was the last time they called you with no agenda, no favor to ask, no news to share, no reason at all except that they were thinking about you and wanted to hear your voice? If you can't remember, that tells you everything you need to know about where you stand in their life. And where you stand in someone's life should be roughly the same as where they stand in yours. If it isn't, the relationship is not a relationship. It is a performance, and you are the only one in the audience. The fourth person who does not deserve your loyalty is the one who keeps you around for appearances. This is the family member who invites you to Thanksgiving, but seats you at the end of the table and doesn't speak to you all evening. The child who posts a photo with you on Mother's Day with a long caption about how much they love you, but hasn't visited in 7 months. The friend who introduces you to people as "my oldest friend" and then ignores you for the rest of the night. These people don't want you. They want the idea of you. They want to be seen as the kind of person who has a devoted parent, a loyal friend, a connected family. But they don't want to do the work that those things require. They want the label without the labor. And you, in your kindness, in your desire to be included, in your fear of being left out entirely, you play along. You sit at the end of the table and smile. You like the Mother's Day post even though it stings. You stand at the party being introduced and then ignored, and you tell yourself it's enough. It is not enough. You deserve more than being someone's prop. You deserve to be someone's priority. And if you are not a priority, you need to stop being available. I had a friend who told me that her daughter only called when she needed a babysitter or a photo for social media. She said, "I am either a service or a set piece. I am never just her mother." And the pain in her voice when she said that was the kind of pain that doesn't have a cure, because the cure would require the daughter to change, and the daughter doesn't see a problem. The daughter thinks a Mother's Day post is love. The daughter thinks dropping the kids off without saying hello is normal. The daughter has confused proximity with connection and access with relationship. And the mother sits there accepting crumbs from a table she built with her own hands. That is not loyalty. That is self-abandonment dressed up as family values. The fifth person, and this is the hardest one. The fifth person who does not deserve your loyalty is the one you see in the mirror. I know that sounds strange, but hear me out. Because the person who has been the most disloyal to you your entire life is you. You are the one who said yes when you meant no. You are the one who put everyone else first for 60 years and never once asked what you needed. You are the one who tolerated disrespect because you were afraid of conflict. You are the one who stayed silent when you should have spoken. You are the one who gave and gave and gave until there was nothing left, and then apologized for being empty. You have been disloyal to yourself for decades, and that disloyalty trained the people around you to be disloyal to you too, because you taught them what was acceptable. You taught them that you would always be there, always say yes, always forgive, always make room, always sacrifice, always put their needs above your own. And they believed you, and they took advantage of what you offered, not because they are evil, because you never set a limit. You never drew a line. You never looked someone in the eye and said, "No, that is enough. I matter too." Let me tell you something about boundaries. Our people understood boundaries the way we understood rivers. A river without banks floods everything. It destroys the very land it is supposed to nourish. But a river with strong banks, a river that knows where it flows and where it doesn't, that river feeds the soil and grows the crops and sustains the village. You are a river, and your boundaries are your banks. And for 60 years you have been flowing without banks, flooding into every person's life who asked for your water, giving yourself away to anyone who showed up with a bucket. And now you are spread so thin that there is barely a trickle left for yourself. It is time to rebuild the banks. It is time to decide where your water goes and where it doesn't. It is time to say, this much and no more. Not out of selfishness, out of survival. Because a river that gives away all its water is not generous. It is dead. I knew a woman named Ada who spent her entire life being the person everyone called when they needed something. Her children called when they needed money. Her siblings called when they needed advice. Her neighbors called when they needed help. Her church called when they needed volunteers. And Ada said yes to all of it, every time, without hesitation, without complaint. Because Ada believed that her value as a human being was directly tied to her usefulness. If she was useful, she was loved. If she was useful, she mattered. If she was useful, she had a reason to exist. And then Ada turned 70, and her body started to slow down. She couldn't do as much. She couldn't say yes as often. She couldn't be the person everyone called anymore. And you know what happened. The calls stopped. Not all of them, but most of them. The children called less. The siblings called less. The neighbors found someone else. The church found another volunteer. And Ada was left sitting in a quiet house, realizing that the love she thought she had earned through decades of service was not love at all. It was dependency. People didn't love Ada. They loved what Ada did for them. And when Ada could no longer do, the love evaporated like water on hot stone. And Ada broke. Not physically, spiritually. She broke in the way that only a person who is given everything can break. With the realization that everything she gave bought her nothing permanent, nothing that would stay when the giving stopped. That is the cost of being loyal to everyone except yourself. You build a life that is entirely dependent on your usefulness, and when the usefulness runs out, the life runs out with it. I don't want that for you. I don't want you sitting in a quiet house at 70 or 75 wondering where everyone went. I want you to start being loyal to yourself right now, today, in whatever small way you can manage. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be a confrontation. It can be as simple as not answering a phone call that you know will drain you. It can be as simple as saying, "I can't do that this weekend," without explaining, without apologizing, without offering an alternative. Just know. That word, that tiny two-letter word, is the most powerful boundary a person can set, and you have earned the right to use it. After 60 years of yes, you have earned a lifetime of no. Use it, carefully, lovingly, but firmly. Because every no you say to someone who doesn't deserve your energy is a yes you say to yourself, and yourself has been waiting a very long time to hear that yes. My grandfather told me something when I was young that I didn't understand until I was old. He said, "Loyalty is a fire. If you give it to the right people, it warms the whole house. If you give it to the wrong people, it burns the house down." You have been handing your fire to people who have used it to burn you. Take it back. Guard it. Give it only to the people who sit close enough to feel the warmth and care enough to add their own wood to the flame. Those are your people. The rest are just visitors, and visitors don't get the keys to the house. You have spent a lifetime opening your door to anyone who knocked. It is time to start asking who is on the other side before you turn the handle. Not out of cruelty, out of wisdom. The wisdom that comes from being burned enough times to finally respect the fire. Your fire is sacred. Your loyalty is sacred. Your time is sacred. Your energy is sacred. And sacred things are not handed out to anyone who asks. Sacred things are protected, honored, given only to those who understand their value. Find those people, hold them close, and let the rest find their warmth somewhere else. You have done enough warming for one lifetime. If what you heard today stayed with you, the book is there. The Native Way, 20 teachings, 100 pages, written the way I would speak to you if we were sitting together. Scan the QR code on the screen with your phone or find the link in the comments. Read one chapter, sit with it. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, which one of these 5 people did you recognize first? I read every comment. And if this is the kind of conversation you have been looking for, subscribe to this channel. We are not collecting viewers here. We are collecting people who remember. Come back next week. I am not done teaching yet.